Hello! If your district has purchased Nearpod, then you already know how incredible Nearpod is for teaching and learning. However, one piece that often gets overlooked is the district library. The district library is a place where your district can house lessons saved from our Nearpod lesson library, or that your district creates that only users from your district can access. This can be a game changer for your district. Take a look at how Mobile County Public Schools in Mobile, Alabama takes advantage and leverages the power of the district library. If this is something that you are interested in pursuing for your own district, make sure to contact your Nearpod Customer Success Manager right away. Thank you for watching, and thank you for choosing Nearpod.
My name is Ursula Martin. I am an instructional technology resource teacher for Mobile County Public School System.
My name is Allison Chappelle, and I am an instructional technology resource teacher for the Mobile County Public School System.
We've been using Nearpod since 2014. We discovered Nearpod probably at the end of 2013 and decided that it would be a great tool to introduce to our teachers.
Well, we started with the district library with one content area. Since we're the technology department, we were adopting new technology standards, and it was the first time in like 8 or 10 years that we had new standards, and we wanted to make it easy for our teachers to incorporate these standards into their teaching, what they were always doing. And we had computer science standards as well as the digital citizenship standards. And for us to do that, we decided let's use Nearpod, and we've started our district library piece with that in mind, a way to support teachers with a new implementation of standards to make it easy for them to kind of grab and go with these lessons. So we selected our team. First of all, we started, like I said, with the technology ones, and we found teachers who were maybe in that area. If they were high school, they were already teaching computer science ones. We could reach out to counselors, media specialists who would be helping with the digital citizenship ones. And then again, we worked together jointly to look at our usage in Nearpod. We knew those teachers who were using it a lot, and we found teachers in those content area or in that grade level to help us with that task. And then, as you'll hear us go through this process, we really branched down into other areas, and that's when we would reach out to maybe supervisors at the district level, maybe in reading or in math, to find their lead teachers. Then we would check usage in Nearpod to see if they were using it, look through their library, and then we would ask those teachers to join our summer team.
And the reason we checked usage is we felt like our high users would be people that would know how to not just pull a Nearpod lesson, but how to vet that Nearpod lesson, how to add to that Nearpod lesson or make changes as necessary for the things that related to our task at hand, which was at that time the tech standards.
Good. And also, like she said, we were vetting the lessons.
Yes.
Sometimes we had to create them from scratch because we started this a while back. Absolutely. And when we had these new standards, some of those higher level computer science ones, they would create them from scratch from material they had. So when we originally started with the computer science one, we had to come up with a way to make the standards progress, per se, and we didn't want to overwhelm teachers. So those lessons are set up different from our other content areas. These are set up more by quarter, and I split up computer science, like if it was starting with in the younger grade keyboarding, we might have that at the beginning, where later in the year it might be more on research. So we split up the computer science with the digital sit. So at the beginning of the year it was acceptable use policy. The whole district has to do that. But then as we progressed to other content areas, we decided to correlate those by the domain rather than just the quarter. Sometimes pacing guides in a district get changed from year to year, and what might have been taught first quarter might be taught second quarter, and then teachers are scrounging around to go back to that quarter to find it. So we did it by the domain instead. So it might be number and operations, and the teachers know to go there and find those lessons.
So because we wanted to make sure that this was available to everybody, and I think she mentioned earlier about the acceptable use policy, that was something everybody had to do. Then the first thing was to get people trained, those lead teachers that helped to get this set up. We wanted them to do turnaround training. So that was the first idea, is go back into your schools now and let everybody know that this is available, because everybody has to complete the acceptable use policy. We also provided requirements from our media specialist supervisor, that the media specialists be the ones in charge of making sure that that gets covered in every school. And so first, just getting it out there that the district library is available, what's available in the district library, and then getting the people that trained, that helped to get this set up, out to do turnaround training and let everybody know how to access that, what needs to be accessed, at what time it needed to be accessed, because we gave them completion times as well.
And when we finally got about purchasing the full package, we really had to roll this out. We're a pretty large district, so we had to roll it out strategically.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an administrator and 2 lead teachers come from every school. So when they came to find out about Nearpod, we had just started the library with those in there. So we told them, these are in the district library. This is what's required. This is where we need teachers to go to get these. And they liked it.
Yeah.
And so the next year we added another grade level and another.
So right now we are currently working on ACAP, which is our state test. And we're working on getting our teachers trained on how to use ACAP in Nearpod, because Nearpod offers very close similarities to what that test will look like. So that's our newest project. Is we have a team of teachers now helping us to pull lessons that, again, mimic the ACAP, which is mostly the reading, I think it is, and maybe some math. And they're pulling those lessons and adding activities to that, and we're creating now a space for the teachers to be able to access that across elementaries K-8 for the test, so that they'll have a place to help their students, again, kind of mimic what that test is going to look like for them. Some activities, the drag and drop, some of the newer activities actually in Nearpod, the drag and drop, the fill in the blanks, some of the things that they're going to see on that test, they're going to be able to mimic that in Nearpod.
And as we started out with those original content area,
Right.
the next year we moved to our core content, reading and math, because in the elementary grades, we really need to focus on those reading and math skills. So in the summertime, we lead teachers through this process, and we find teachers on that grade level. They work together to either, like she stated earlier, find lessons that match our standard, and we say, per se, vet them. We know that they go and follow our standard for our district, or tweak them, or create from scratch. And we have done that with reading and math, and everybody caught on and really liked it.
Yeah.
So then the supervisor wanted secondary. We got to pull them in there too. So we pulled them in. And now we have our computer science, reading, math, science, social studies, as well as our gifted and PACE teachers. They heard about it. Their supervisor contacted me. They wanted in, and I said, sure, no problem. They worked in the summer and created those. So we pretty much have everything covered at this point.
Now.
And like she said, we're working on ACAP. And then yesterday, I mentioned it to the counselor supervisors, and they're like, oh, yeah, we want ours in there too. And so now we're going to work this summer to have them help us and add theirs, and then we should be pretty good. Then we'll just start tweaking as things change and get updated.
And this promotes more usage of the district library, as you know, each of the content areas and grade levels, and now the counselors that we just talked about adding, we're putting this in a place that everybody has access to it, and they can pull those lessons and use them from the district library. They can pull them into their own library and do a few things with that as needed, but this prompts more use of that district library by having that place to provide it where everybody has access to that one place to get what they need.
And I want to add one more thing. When we started, I was explaining to teachers, let's try to find 1 to 2 lessons to go with that standard, kind of a place to jumpstart teachers who maybe aren't using Nearpod. They can go in here and grab and get them. Or you have brand new teachers that come in and they're looking like, what am I supposed to do? How do I start teaching? how do I know if my lesson, correlates with my standard? Well, now you can direct them to this library and say, hey, you teach reading 3rd grade. Here you go, and look in here, and if you need some support, we can help you. But it helps them understand that it does match, and they don't have to dig through and really study to make sure they've got an accurate lesson.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first year we just tackled the computer science and digital citizenship. That was just us that's our department.
Right.
So we wanted a way to support our teachers with our standards. And then we realized people liked it. So the next year I added on reading and math. And we do this in the summertime. Our teachers are off, so they can work from home and do this. It's not anything that they have to necessarily come and all be together. I might have one meeting at the beginning of the year, the end of the school year, and then they go and they just contact me throughout their time and send me the lessons. So we started with reading and math, and then the next year we added science and social studies. And then at this point now, we're just tweaking it. So I would say 2 years to kind of get it going, and then the third year we're tweaking it for sure. So, yeah.
I would say find your why. It is so important to know why do we even need this library? And if you can find your why, then everything else falls into place. Our why was we got new tech standards. That's what we started with. And we've got to find a way to get everybody on board with incorporating the new tech standards into their classrooms. And so what better place to do that than to have one place, a district library that everybody could access and be able to pull those lessons and incorporate that into their day-to-day teaching. It's just really all about your why. And there's a lot of whys out there, I'm going to say that. Again, ours was tech standards. That's what we started with. But now we're at counselors, meeting the need of counselors. So providing that single place for them to be able to pull lessons to use with their students. Testing, that became another new why for us. We want to be able to provide to our teachers a way for their students to kind of get a glimpse of how their state test is going to look. And we knew that Nearpod provided those opportunities. So that was a new why for us. Let's use our district library, a place where everybody has access and that they can pull from that what they need.
And I'm thinking we have different levels of educators throughout our system. So we have some that have been way up here with technology and they know Nearpod, and then we have teachers who might not. They're a little bit more reluctant. And we noticed through our trainings when they were getting to the part where they were searching for lessons in the Nearpod library, some of them were still having a little bit of trouble. We might have, showed them how to drill down to that standard, but they might forget a step, or, hey, I'm really not sure if this lesson matches. This helps us ensure for them they're going to use Nearpod because we found the lesson. Yeah. Our teachers have made sure it works, and they send it to us. We check over it, or they created it, and we put on the cover slide of those lessons that are in our district library, we kind of have a Mobile County logo with a description. It's got the title and it's got the standard on it. So we just pull it in, and they see that logo, and they're like, oh, okay, this is one that we know matches for sure. Kind of takes a little bit of that legwork out for them. And then once they start using it, they say, wow, Nearpod is great. I can go in there and do it myself. And so then they start pulling in their lessons from Nearpod. So when we organize our district library, we do it 2 different ways. During the summer, like I mentioned earlier, that's when our team really works on it. So I create a school library. We have one here for our central office staff. I put all of those teachers into that temporarily into the summertime. We're all in one together. So we can look and see what lessons are being putting into each category, into each folder. So we are working out of that, so nobody else in the district is seeing changes. So if it, we know some teachers are in there in the summertime, they're working and they're like, wait, I saw a lesson, it's gone now. We wait, we work separate in there. So I have a team of teachers who work on finding the lessons, creating the lessons, adding them. And then I usually have 2 more teachers that help me go through with editing, double checking to make sure it matches properly. Do they put the cover slide on? It isn't in the right folder in the right standard. Once they check that, then they send their lessons to us, me and then the 2 other teachers or whoever's helping on that content, and we move them into the district library. That's what we do in the summertime to really get it organized. It helps, and I will say kudos to Nearpod because now it's a lot easier to move them over. and we can just click that folder and I can add them from in there from my library. So it's not that difficult. It's a pretty easy process. And then during the school year, we have teachers who are just working for us, or they were on our team in the summer and they have lessons. They're like, hey, I made this great lesson. I think others might want it. They just email them to me. I know what to teach and I just dump them in there. So once the school year starts, I just manage how to move the lessons around. But typically, most of our legwork is done in the summertime.
I think limiting the number of people that are adding to the library allows for that vetting process to take place. And I think that's real important, is that lessons are vetted. Does it really match the standard? Is this really appropriate for this grade level? So I think, as she stated, she drilled it down to 2 other teachers and herself, then they're better able to kind of really go through those lessons and say, okay, yeah, this is the right one for the right grade, it's the right standard, and to get them into the right place in the library.
And I would say it does take a team. Like she said, when you think about that process, okay, we're not the experts. Was a former elementary teacher. She was a former high school science teacher. There is no way we could sit here and make lessons for every single area. So when you pull in those lead teachers, those top teachers from those content areas, they help support you in that process.
I think most especially, and I think I also mentioned this earlier, new teachers that are really struggling, they're not sure where to go, having a district library that really points them into that right direction. I teach 3rd grade, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Well, here's standard 1, 1.2 on numbers, whatever it is they're covering. It eases the process for them moving into this new teaching position. For our more seasoned teachers, I'll say, that may not be as tech savvy, this eases a process for them. We can send them to nearpod.com and they know that I can click on that district library and that I'm not having to create a lesson from scratch or search for one, because I can go to the folder and the content area that I need to go to and find a lesson, again, that's going to meet my standards, that I'm going to be able to drop in, launch for my kids, and know that they're getting what they need, and I'm going to have that immediate feedback as well. So I think for both ends, a newer teacher or a more seasoned teacher, I think this has been a plus for them to be able to have this tech tool that has this content that's built, that's meeting my standard, that is helping me engage my students. It kind of covers a lot of things for them in the classroom. I think it's been a great piece for those teachers.
And like we mentioned earlier too, it's a springboard. So there's so many tech tools out there, but our system, adopted and paid for this wonderful program, and we want it in the hands of our teachers. So what easier way than to say, hey, click on this one folder, district library, and everything is in there to get you started without having to question how to actually use it and find a lesson. It's there, it's done for you. We take that pressure and that ease off, and then we get to see the excitement, and they'll message us,
yes.
hey, this lesson was great, and my kids were doing all this stuff I didn't know they could do. So now we've given them a taste of it, and then they want to dive in more, and then they're going to come back for more training, and we just keep moving forward. All right, so we are going to take just a few minutes to show you our district library, how it's set up. You'll see all of the main folders, and we have our ACAP practice, which is just kind of being started and developed as we go along with our new testing materials. We put that in here. This is the digital literacy and computer science standards that we have for my department. And we have the acceptable use one right here. Everybody in our system, we are required by the state to make sure we teach the acceptable use policy. So for us to be able to document it and make sure it's done, we just dropped it into our district library in Nearpod, and our media specialists are in charge of making sure it's taught, and then we check the reports. So then we have proof that we have a certain percentage of our students completing that. When you look inside one of the folders, you'll see our grade levels are placed in here. And then for secondary, we have it by semester. And these, like I said, are just our computer science and digital citizenship standards. We place them in here. And we always have our cover slide on the top with our seal for our district, with our topics underneath it for this area. And then when we get into the other area of our content area, you will see that we have our standards placed on there. So our other outside of the regular classroom would be library and media and gifted and PACE. Our library and media just have their set up by elementary and secondary, and they just put in lessons that go with their standards and concepts they're teaching. So that's all put in here. And then give you a little explanation of what it looks like. And I'll just kind of show you that in preview. So our cover slide is right here. And then they've got the standards and they type out what they're teaching as well as the grade level. So that's what that looks like on our cover slide. And you will notice that that is library media. I want to get into some of our content areas so I can show you what that looks like. So we're going to look at math elementary, and we updated this last summer because we got a new course of study. So previously we had these set up always divided by grade level, and then within it there were quarters. But that can get a little bit cumbersome year to year when our standards and our pacing guide might shift from teaching at quarter one into quarter two. So instead of, my advice, instead of putting it in by the quarter, I would put it in by that main domain area. So we'll look right here at geometry, and within that folder, you'll see those same cover slides. So we look for lessons in Nearpod. We make sure they follow our standard the way we want them to be taught. And we either edit the slide or we edit the lesson, or we create another full lesson to add to the library. And we ask the teachers who work on this project to please put in at least one lesson per standard. So we use this as a good jumping point to help teachers get used to finding ways to use Nearpod in their classroom. And then as we build on our library, we can always put more in there. Sometimes they send them to me throughout the year. So that was the elementary math. I'm going to go to secondary science. And when we look at high school science, most of our teachers have put theirs in here with our slide, and they're just all in one area because they teach it all within a semester, and it's not really like broken down by quarter, and their standards just flow together. They might be teaching multiple ones at one time. So they know what they're looking for, and they put the lessons in here. But I did have one teacher put hers in a little bit differently, asked me if she could. I said, sure, was no problem with me. So I will show you what hers looks like. When I get to hers, she teaches physics. And she did hers a little bit different. She set it up the way Nearpod has their lessons separated when you're searching for them. So she did ones that were assessment skill builder, lessons, short videos with questions, and then virtual labs. But within each one of those, if it was a short video with questions, she still added that cover slide to it. So they know these were ones we found, and she's got the standard and the course that she's teaching as well. If I go back to her folder, she might have full lessons still in there with those same cover slides. So just showing you different ways that you could set up your library. I'll go to one more area real quick and just show you another one. This is social studies by the grade level, and then we'll pick grade 6. And they wanted to leave theirs like this. Theirs doesn't shift quite as much, and this is what works for them. And what's great about this library is we let our teachers be the voice to help us creating the folders, setting things up, and what works best for each grade level and content area. So we have theirs set up like that. So I would really encourage you, listen to the voices of your teachers. Find what makes sense for your district and how you would organize things. But those are just a little different ways and options that you could possibly set yours up, and go from there to determine, what would work best for you. And you might see that it needs to be more than one way depending on the grade level, kind of like what we have in our district library. But that, in a nutshell, shows you what ours looks like.